What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome back. This is the NASCAR DFS podcast. I am Dan Malin. I apologize for new angle and poor lighting. It's not often that Matt and I record this podcast during a Truck Series race late Friday night. I wanted to be able to watch it. Kyle Busch wrecked early on, crushing many lineups for so many people. So it really comes down to if you faded Kyle Busch for this truck race, you are looking great. Otherwise, we are here to talk the Cup Series race at Darlington. Throwback schemes, great track, high tire wear, different banking and turn radii at each end of the track. It's the egg. Lady in Black. Matt, we've got a lot to talk about this weekend, especially coming off a fantastic Kansas race.
Which somebody told me they missed.
That was me.
Malin fell asleep. I texted him, "Holy crap, what a finish!" And he goes, "What?"
Yeah, I didn't read it until like 5 a.m. on Monday. That's what happens when you have a lengthy delay, and I say this all the time to friends and family, and just
yes,
I have the habits of like a very elderly man. I
it
tend to wake up
that he works an actual full-time job in addition to the fantasy alarm stuff. So
yeah, so I tend to wake up between 4 and 5 in the morning every day of the week. And yeah, a delayed race just wasn't really working for me on Sunday. I had it on my computer off to the side on my bed. It was like perched up, and I fell asleep watching it. God, Thad Mata is just terrible. This is so irrelevant to our podcast, but he's just bad. Anyway, but I fell asleep before the end of. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna say I fell asleep in stage 3. I fell asleep in stage 1 of this race, and it turned out it contends with Atlanta for race of the year, and I missed it.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. First 2 stages, green flags, and then we got cautions in stage 3, which were fantastic, and then we had pit strategy, which I was a little confused at the end. I don't know how much of the end of the race or the highlights you've seen, but Truex is coming. Like, he's like second, and then the caution comes out with 3 laps to go, and he's the only one that takes 4 tires. Yeah. Everybody else took 2 tires. I mean, he got back up to 3rd, but it seemed a little sketched. Like,
you think that they were just gambling on another caution?
I don't know, or they were gambling that more guys would take 4 tires and it wouldn't actually kill them as bad. But like most dudes just took 2 tires and a lot and gas because they were going to be running out of gas there. So I know that RFK had complaints about the finish line theoretically being that's not. First of all, the camera doesn't line up with the finish line. The picture showed, it lines up with like the checkers, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, the apron is a shorter distance than the banked, curved front stretch. So Larson actually went a farther distance to then nudge out Chris Buescher than Chris Buescher had to go. So there's that. Do I feel bad for Buescher? Yes. And in live action, I thought Buescher probably had it. But the picture's pretty clear that the front of Larson's car gets to the line before Buescher's does.
I think the issue with the live action is like it's also like Buescher has momentum,
right,
as he's kind of like going down the track, and so it does look like he has more speed. It's just insane that we go from, because Saturday was the Kentucky Derby, which was also a photo finish, and when
three-way photo finish that was ridiculous.
But when you look at that and everyone's comparing it to like the NASCAR finish at Atlanta, and you're thinking like, well, that's like they're almost like hand in hand, like such great, phenomenal, and close finishes. And then on Sunday at Kansas, which is we have said it, many people in the industry have said it, like it's one of the best tracks for this car.
Yeah,
and it's just bizarre that they don't consider the championship race at this track. And we've hit on this before, whether it's just not like a destination city, but like it's such a phenomenal track for this car, for this package. But a phenomenal finish overall. I watched it a lot. Sure, I fell asleep. I didn't see it live. If I had seen it live, I probably would have freaked out. But it was it made Monday morning and getting ready for work and a long week that much better. But we get one of the best tracks on the schedule, and not just like in terms of like the racing that we're going to get, but we do get the throwback paint schemes.
Yep.
The Eric Jones probably has the best one because he's running the Cole Trickle scheme from Days of Thunder. Of all the time,
I did like Haley Deegan's throwback to Dale Earnhardt Sr.
I have not seen that one
because Senior in like 1982 when he was in an Xfinity race was number 15, which is Deegan's number.
Oh, okay.
So she threw it back to the yellow and blue Wrangler in the 15, and it looks spot on awesome.
I dig it. But you're going to kind of see that throughout the entire weekend. The truck race is running pretty late on Friday night. We are recording this at 11 p.m. Eastern time on the East Coast. We do have some weather concerns. I don't know how it really works out for Saturday and Sunday. They did get practice and qualifying in for the Truck Series. Practice and qualifying was rained out for Xfinity, so the lineup is set by the metric, and we're getting a ton of chalk for that race. Trying to remain optimistic for the Cup race. But this is just a phenomenal race year in, year out. The Darlington Spring Race. You get the paint schemes. You get just great racing. High tire wear. I love these tracks. As someone who used to like relish in the old Atlanta track and the tire wear and the surface, I love when we can go to a track like Darlington, Homestead, even Richmond to an extent. Like I know it's a shorter track, but it is a high tire wear short track.
Bristol had tire wear this year.
I love it. And it sucks because they tore down Auto Club, which was another high tire wear track. And luckily, Vegas and Kansas are getting older. So we do see more tire degradation with those tracks each progressing year. But Darlington, we know it's old. We know it's a beauty. Break it down for us. Like what makes this track so unique?
So first of all, it's 1.36 miles. So there's no other track that's that specific distance. Yeah, Nashville's close, but Darlington's way steeper. Okay, this was the first super speedway track in NASCAR. It was specifically built to be ridiculously fast. The other thing that makes it unique is the egg shape. You talked about it. When they built the track, there was a fish pond in the way. Could not destroy the fish pond when they built the track, so they built the track with a narrower end at one end than the other, which means setup for the cars is insane because you either have to get one end and hope you're good on the other. There's basically no getting both ends perfectly correct because the radius is so different. You can't do it. Tire wear is insane. This is the highest tire wear track on the schedule. I won't be shocked if Goodyear is giving out extra sets of tires during the race. Like we saw them do. What was the race earlier this year where they were giving out the extra set? Because was it Bristol that they were giving out the extra set?
It may have been.
Because there was concern that they were only going like half as far on the tires as they thought they were going to before they were quitting. And then, if it's warm, holy crap, does this track get slick? So then handling becomes way tougher. There are technically multiple grooves. It just depends on how close to the wall you want to get to make a second groove.
I can't believe, in my preface and hype for this track, I forgot to mention, running the high line, as exciting as it is to watch, it's just so risky.
When they put the bumper cam, they have the bumper cams on these cars now, on the spoiler, I should say, where it's on the right side towards the wall, and you can see just how close these guys are getting. Don't be shocked if one of those cameras gets sheared off the cars at this track because they get so close.
I guess we can kind of dive into the driver pool because when we talk about guys that love running along the wall at tracks like these, like Homestead, Auto Club, RIP, Darlington, two guys probably come to mind, and it's going to be Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick.
Yes, it will. So we're going to go ahead and bring up the phrasing here. If I can get the screen share to work. Again, gotta love it. We've got technical difficulties here.
That's fine. The truck race is in a caution anyway.
Oh, I made you small. All right, let's try this again. I don't know what's going on here. stop sharing and we'll just start it again. This is great listening and watching.
No, it's fine. But so we talk about these high tire wear tracks, and the momentum that you can get simply just from coming off the corner. It does present risk because you scrub the wall. It's going to ruin the contour of the truck or the car. I'm sorry. I'm watching the truck race. I'm trying to get out of this mindset.
It's also going to ruin the contour of the truck too.
Yeah. But it does benefit those guys that are willing to take that risk. We've seen, Tyler Reddick has gotten a win on high tire wear tracks in the Xfinity Series. He's the only driver to take the 48 car for Big Machine Racing to victory lane, and I believe he did it at, I want to say it was Darlington about 2 or 3 years ago. Kyle Larson, we know notoriously loves the high tire wear tracks, loves running along the wall. Like, those are the two guys that stand out to me the most heading into this weekend.
Yeah, I would say anybody with dirt racing experience tends to like these high tire wear tracks because they can get loose and just kind of swing it and let the car turn like it would on a dirt track. So I wouldn't be shocked to see, Christopher Bell have a pretty good run and Chase Briscoe have a pretty good run. Guys who have a pretty decent amount of dirt tracking experience under their belt. There's also a guy coming back from injury who we'll talk about in a little bit, who has done really, really well here as well. But one thing that is interesting is that Toyotas don't have a win here in the next gen car.
Is that weird for you? Because they've just been so good at Kansas. And I know last week when we were talking Kansas, I'm more of the mindset that Vegas is a higher tire wear track, but you did make the argument that Kansas is slowly getting there as well. It's really hard to compare the amount of tire wear and the fall off that we're going to see at Darlington to either of those two tracks, but it still is surprising that the Toyotas have not collected a win here.
Yeah, because Toyotas we've been talking about for a little while are really good at the intermediate package in the next gen car, right? We talk about it every time we go to Kansas. Basically, all of the Toyotas are in play. Denny Hamlin has won Darlington a few times, not in the next gen car. Truex has won it. So we've seen these guys have success at Darlington, but for some reason, whatever it is, the way that the next gen car races in the intermediate package, it has not translated to Darlington. So, not saying they can't break that streak. Streaks are meant to be broken. Just like Ford looking for a win. we want to talk about
not coming this week,
not getting a win. They have lost 3 races this year by a combined 0.006 of a second. Right? Blaney lost Talladega or Atlanta. Was it Talladega or Atlanta?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. He lost it by 0.003 of a second. Who lost at Texas in Xfinity for Ford? Was it Sieg?
Yes, it was.
Sieg lost by 0.002 of a second.
Yeah. Wait, so they don't have a single win across any series this year?
No.
Oh my God.
And Buescher lost Kansas by 1,000th of a second last week. Yeah, they are 0 for 30, I think.
Like Custer doesn't even have a win next year?
No Ford has a win in any 3 series this year. So, I say that to say, could Ford still win this week? Sure. They have drivers that have won at Darlington. Do I expect it? No. No, I do not.
Unless Kevin Harvick is coming out of the booth, they are not winning this weekend.
He's not. He will be next weekend, but not this weekend. Because Kevin Harvick will be practicing Larson's car at the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. But no, I don't think Ford's winning this week. And Toyotas are a little surprising. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with practice on Saturday morning. But with that being said, who do we like in the 10,000 range between Chevys and Toyotas?
Oh my God. Yeah, there's no Ford in the 10th. Okay.
No, the first Ford is Keselowski at 9,200.
They are interviewing Kyle Busch right now about wrecking in the truck race.
I was
He
going
doesn't
to
look
say
at
that Kyle Busch gets more practice, but he really didn't.
he did not. It's amazing that he's actually priced at 94, but we are talking the 10K range. It's hard not to like Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
Just knowing what we know about his experience and especially at Homestead, he's won here at Darlington. Byron is probably going to be someone that we look to as well. He probably should have won this race 2 years ago, but he got punted by Joey Logano.
He did.
And that race pissed people off because Logano didn't even need to boot Byron. He had the faster car at the time. Could have
He
easily
didn't even try to pass him either. He just freaking
he
booted
him. It was pretty obvious that he just like sent him. But then Byron did get the
win. Or as
win.
Harvick said, yeeted him.
Yeah. But Byron did eventually come back. He got the win to, I guess, exercise those demons.
Reddick is hard to dislike at 10-3.
No, Reddick is hard to dislike at 10-3. But then we also if I'm going to answer this question, the only one I don't really care for is Martin Truex Jr.
That's fair. He's been a contender, but not like a dominator in any of the races.
Yes. And if I want to go to...
You need dominator points.
And like if I'm going to play Truex, I don't think it's going to be this week. I kind of want to wait until they hit the road course portion of the schedule. Maybe Sonoma when they get there. But it's just like I'm looking at this 10K range and I'm thinking, I've seen Hamlin win here. I've seen Larson win here. I've seen Byron win here. I've seen Reddick run well. Bell is a guy that I think can win here. You know, it's like in this 10K range, I really just don't really want to play Truex. And then if we were to dip lower, I initially look at the $9,800 price tag on Chase Elliott, and I kind of scoff at that.
I would agree for the same reason we did not high on Truex, because like Chase has been running well. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
He's got a very good average finish this year. Obviously, the point total reflects that. But the problem is there's very little dominating going on. Like the most laps he's led in a race were 64. And that was on a short track that had a bunch of laps and very little passing chances. So, like he started ninth at Kansas, ran third, 10 fastest laps, no laps led. That's, 52 points on DK is great, but not at almost 10K.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, doesn't do me. Chastain should be fun here. Chastain is arguably fun anywhere, but
see, like I never really know what to do with Chastain when I'm previewing the Truck Series and he's racing with Nice Motorsports, because it's like I know he's good. I also know that the truck is probably at best a top 5 truck, but it doesn't have much win equity. But I do still value like just the extra laps that he's getting on the track, and not that he needs them. He knows what he needs to do at this track.
Yeah.
But in the next gen car, he's been pretty solid at Darlington. Like he's gotten up front, he's led laps. I put him in my preview article over on Fantrax for this week's race. So if he can kind of offer that same dominator potential and still offer a good finish, I'm very intrigued with the play.
Yeah, that's the trick with him, is that if we're not getting dominator points, then the price tag's a little harder to deal with from him. By the way, why is DraftKings now splitting Buescher and Keselowski by this much? After last week where they both ran, like Keselowski did what I thought he was going to do, which is, move up pretty well. Apparently DraftKings doesn't want to load things. Move up pretty well, finish in the top 10 or top 12. Put up a nice haul. And then Buescher comes out of nowhere and nearly wins after not having a top 5 finish on an intermediate track, I think, ever in his career.
Yeah.
And now he gets a price. Like, technically, I guess he went up in price, but not as much as Keselowski. They put up 7. He put up 70 points, and I think Kez put up 60 points. So Keselowski actually was outpaced by Buescher by 10 points, and Kez is the one in the 9,000 range.
Yeah, that one I don't really get. I don't know. I don't know if DraftKings has some kind of algorithm where they're incorporating what a driver has done in his last handful of races, but like he's collected 60 plus fantasy points on DraftKings in 3 of his last 4 races. To the human eye, that's not all that impressive. I mean, yeah, he was second at Texas, he was second at Talladega. Other than that, like we're still waiting for Brad to get that first win in like 3 years.
Right. Also, if you look at the last 6 Darlington races,
Yeah.
Buescher has an average finish of 12-2. Kez has an average finish of 13-7.
Yeah. Again, just not a ton of logic there.
Like, it just doesn't. I don't know. I can't figure out what they do with him every week.
How do you feel about Ty Gibbs?
I kind of feel like he's a value here.
Yes, I agree. I love the $8,500 price tag.
I mean, he's basically average price.
He is, and
he's got as much upside as the other 3 JGR guys who are all 10K and above.
But like, what's weird is that he was really knocking on the door of a win early on this year.
Correct.
When we look at Vegas, Phoenix, Bristol, flash the dominator potential. In his last, what looks like 8 races, he's led a total of 7 laps.
Yeah. I mean, he looked good at Dover.
I don't really know what's going on there, but at the same time, it's like, I know the equipment's great. I know a win is coming. If I anticipate it coming on a week where we least expect it. And so I kind of want to keep playing him because there's going to come a time where playing him is going to pay off huge, especially if it can come at like a mid-range price tag. But again, there are just so many other drivers, and this is a tough track. Like a lot of drivers will tell you, like Darlington is not a track where you're racing the field. You are literally racing the track.
Yeah.
I don't know if it comes this week. It would be exciting if it did, because it's a lot of like Cole Trickle vibes, getting your first win at Darlington, even though it's a fictional character. But like, yeah, like how awesome would it be if he could collect? And I get it. Like, if you probably followed him in the Xfinity Series, you hate the kid.
He's been a model citizen in the Cup Series, though.
He's been better. I think when he dumped Brandon Jones in the Xfinity Series semifinals a couple of years ago, that kind of woke him up to like, I cannot be this much of an ass and wrecking.
Well, I also think that there's a little bit of, I'm good enough to be in the Cup Series. Why am I still down here?
Sure.
Right? Because like not to switch sports here, but the knock on Bryce Harper in the minor leagues was he was a prima donna. He was, not really a great team player, kind of a egocentric dude. Then all you hear about him in the major leagues is that he's the nicest guy. He's a great team player. It's kind of like, I was drafted first overall. Why am I still down here a year later when I'm clearly good enough? Again, I think that was a little bit. Also, his dad passing probably,
yeah, and the
faster
the
than
saddest part of that is like his dad passed literally hours after he won an Xfinity Series.
Correct.
Championship.
I also wonder if like Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't reach out and help him mature, because like Jr. went through. I mean, obviously he was older than Ty Gibbs, but he went through a similar thing where his dad literally. I mean, Junior's dad literally died on the track.
Yeah.
But he was still kind of like, if you look back at early Dale Jr., he was not exactly the nicest dude. He has done a lot of maturing since, and so I wonder if that's helped. But we're getting off topic. Does this help with his racing? I don't know. I mean, it has to help because he's not getting punted by other people off the track, right?
I think he's at least earned the respect of other drivers pretty
correct.
quickly.
The only problem I have with Ty Gibbs this week is I think he's probably the most popular guy in the 8K range. Not that it's saying a lot because there's not that many, but like.
Yeah, there's only 4 of them.
Right, but even if we go up to like 9K with Ryan Blaney, and you go down to like
yeah, and
closer to
it's
78, I think Ty Gibbs is probably. You can make the argument that that guy has more upside than anybody else in that range.
and we've already professed our hatred for the Fords this week. Well, I have at least.
I mean,
And that kind of rules out Blaney, Logano.
the
And
problem
Busch.
is that Logano can still show up and compete in a weekend.
Well, it's just he doesn't even like at 8,800. Like Logano still has the kind of car that can finish in the top 5, but it really just depends on where he starts.
Yeah.
Because at 8,800, you don't need dominator points from this guy. If you're getting the right amount of position differential and a good finish, he can hit 50 points, and you don't need a single dominator point out of him. But it's going to come down to where he qualifies. Blaney, I anticipate can still qualify pretty well.
Yeah, you were talking about Richmond. If Logano starts 10th, finishes 2nd, 25 fastest laps, that was 61 points at 8,400. You'd be over the moon if you got that from Logano this week.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. Logano's just a guy who's run really well here in the past. And at some point, they have to figure it out, right?
I don't know if Logano necessarily figures it out. I anticipate Blaney figuring it out. And it's weird that we're saying this because these are the 2 Cup Series champions of the next gen era. It's like we're dumping on Ford so much, but yet like these 2 Fords are the Cup Series champions of the next gen car.
Yeah, my only thing is like over the last 6 Darlington races, which is basically the last 3 years, right? Logano has the best average finish in the field at 9.3.
Mm-hmm.
And we know for a fact there are years where he's looked god-awful and then shows up and has a good run here.
Factually correct, yes.
So, and Blaney nearly matches him in average start. Logano's is 7.7, Blaney's is 8 flat. But Blaney's average finish is 13th, and he has 0 top 5s in the last 6 races. Logano's got 2.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm not saying they're cash plays unless they're starting dead last, and then sure, why not? Because everybody in the world's going to do it. But I think there's still leverage there for GPPs.
All right. We alluded to Chris Buescher. Kind of on the fence about him, but right beneath Chris Buescher is a returning driver that we are both pretty excited about. He's in a Toyota. He's one here with Joe Gibbs Racing, one here with, I think at the time the team was called Petty GMS before they were Legacy Motor Club.
I think so. It was in the 43 car.
Yeah. They were Chevys back then. They are Toyotas now.
Yes.
I don't know, like what, because they said that Jones could have returned last week, but the organization exercised on the side of caution. So they sat him for Kansas. They gave Corey Heim the opportunity. I'm very excited.
Well.
Did it not? But ultimately, we do get Jones back. He's won here twice.
Correct.
Do you feel that we still get a little bit of win equity, despite the fact that, it's Legacy Motor Club? We haven't seen a ton of upside from this organization, but yet the shift to Toyota, might be helping.
You never saw upside with Petty in the 43, and yet he won.
But here's the other thing: it was also the first year of the next gen car when we were really getting some crazy finishes.
Yeah.
So we did see Chase Briscoe win at Phoenix. We saw Daniel Suarez win at Sonoma.
Jones finished 10th here last fall.
Fair. Yeah, no, that's accurate. This could just be a track where he knows the lines that he can run. He knows how to manage his tires here. Regardless of the equipment, he can probably pay off the price tag.
Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with it. If they sat him so that he could be fully rested for a grueling race like Darlington, where he actually runs better than he did at Kansas, I'm fine with it. There's no secret, by the way, that Jones is really good here, so don't be shocked
Oh, absolutely not.
that he's a popular play. I saw a stat. I don't remember who put it out, but it took both Truex and Jones have 2 wins at Darlington. It took Truex 26 races to do it. It's only taken Jones 12.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty sure it was Truex. It was somebody else has 2 wins at Darlington. And Jones has done it in about half the time. I think Gragson's a sneaky play in this range. I've been really impressed with the speed in this 10 car week in and week out.
Yeah, and like, you know what? I get why he was fired from Legacy last year.
You kind of had to.
You had to. He kind of deserved it. I think it was his first season in the Cup Series. I think it was a mixture of like burnout, disappointment on his end that, you know, he wasn't getting the accolades and everything that he was getting in the Xfinity Series.
He gave an interview in May saying, well, we'll just have to do it next year. Like, dude, next year is 7 months away.
I think he's handled himself much better this year. Yeah. And I also think that when you're on a team that's just full of young drivers, and, you know, we still kind of equate SHR with being one of like the big 4 teams. He and Briscoe have performed very well. And like, I'm kind of with you. Like, you know, we've been on board with Gragson. There's been speed in that car a lot. He's been a great tournament play for DraftKings. Comes into this race with 3 straight top 10s. He was 3rd at Talladega, 6th at Dover, and then 9th last week at Kansas, despite starting 3rd. It just seems to be like there's upside for a top 10 every week. It really it boils down to where the kid starts.
The only thing that really killed him last week was he started 3rd.
Yeah.
Which was never going to be a spot he was going to hold. So
right. And I think when we all start, and even at Dover, he started 5th. Like, he's qualifying very well, which does kind of take him out of like DFS contention. Like, we do need a little bit of PD out of a play like Gragson. Otherwise, like, again, just not excited about the Fords. So I just don't think there's much win equity unless we're at a super speedway.
Yeah, I don't know that I need win equity. Like, if
especially at 7,200, you do not need win equity.
Going back to Richmond, if he starts 17th, finishes 12th, gets 8 fastest laps for 40 points. He was 7,100 there. He's 7,200 this week. You're perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
So if he starts in the top 10, we're going to have a problem because I'm not sure he's going to hold it. Or even if he does, there's just not like that's his ceiling for finish position, which gives you basically no PD. So, you know, there's that. I'm not terribly high on Daniel Suarez this week.
Yeah, it doesn't strike him.
It's not been a very good track for Suarez to me.
I kind of like Ricky Stenhouse. I'm not going to lie.
I kind of do too, to be honest. He's like a bad habit you can't quit.
Yeah, especially because like any week he could go out there at a $6K price tag and grab a top 10.
Yeah, I mean, last year in the 2 races here, he finished 13th and 16th. So I'll take it.
And I think if you also take into effect the last 2 races at Auto Club, he finished 12th and 10th.
Correct.
And, you know, he's got the comfort of having that long-term deal with JTD Doherty.
He's also a dirt racer from Mississippi, so there's that. Like, I agree. The long-term deal has made him feel pretty comfy despite whatever's happening with their ownership.
I feel like you have to drive with comfort, like no matter what. Whenever you can ink a long-term deal mid-season, feel good about it. You know, he's a former Daytona 500 winner. Probably can't win on any other track with this car, but, you know, he's probably the best opportunity that team has to get a win or 2 every year.
Correct. Speaking of uncomfortable.
How have we not talked about Michael McDowell this week?
Because
my God,
he's just a guy.
He's just a guy that's got, he's won the Daytona 500. He won a road course last year for Front Row, and he's walking.
I know. And he's going to Spire because Spire has a crap ton of money, and this is fueling the Front Row Motorsports SHR merger talk that's been all a buzz on Reddit this week. All fueled, by the way, because of the IndyCar scandal in Team Penske.
Can you break that down for us?
So at St. Pete, there was a scandal with push to pass. I don't know the full details and the tech specs, but basically, Team Penske used way too much push to pass. You have a certain amount per race to use, and they apparently figured out a way, I think, with software to get around that. So basically, their guys could go past more people. So their guys finished first and second, and it was discovered that they cheated. So 3 weeks later, they vacated the first and second place finishes, disqualified them, and then the guy who finished third won a race, and he hasn't led a lap this year yet, which is impressive. So what this boils down to is who is the head of racing at Team Penske? It would be Tim Cindric, who is Austin Cindric's dad. And so basically, I think there's going to be like a charter available, and somehow SHR and Front Row are getting together, and it's you're going to have to read the Reddit pages to really go into the wormholes because I don't have enough time on this podcast to break it all down. But basically, Cindric is going to be out of a job at Penske, and so Penske can either shrink teams or give a charter up, and then I don't know. It's convoluted. I don't think any of it's happening, by the way.
But do you think that McDowell moving to Spire is potentially moved to get a ride with Trackhouse?
Yes. I mean,
Because we're seeing that Spire is a little bit of a pipeline.
Yeah, we see Trackhouse is using Spire as a third car right now anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And if Cindric does actually leave Penske because Tim Cindric gets kicked out of a job and his son leaves because he's been sucking it up in the Cup Series.
He has not been good. He's been terrible since
he's been atrocious. So if he leaves to go back to doing the open wheel racing, which he's apparently far better at, then maybe Trackhouse can get another charter, and then it opens a path to McDowell to go to Trackhouse and be another amigo over there. I don't know. I mean, he's been solid. I'm not gonna say but like Darlington's not his track. But yeah, congrats to Michael McDowell for leaving and then immediately having his next move leaked, and then he had to put out another statement saying, "Yep, it's true. I was hoping to hold off, but you all leaked it." So I don't know. We're down to the bare bones here. What are we looking at?
Todd Gilliland, Michael
I mean,
McDowell's teammate. Yeah, I mean, all four races at Darlington in the next gen era. Gilliland has finished better than where he started, which isn't saying much for some of those races. But in the last two spring races at this track, he's gained at least 12 spots of position differential. He's finished top 15 in both races.
Correct.
We're just a few days removed from him finishing top 15 at Kansas. I mean, if he starts outside the top 25, I don't know how we don't just load him up and play him a little more. Similarly, I'll go back to it. I do like Justin Haley again this week.
I mean, it's hard not to like the guy. I mean, he just came off a top 20 at Kansas.
I know.
He moved up well at Dover for whatever, we're counting towards that. He moved up well at Texas, which, by the way, is kind of, in a way, a little bit of because it's kind of a single groove for most of the time, and there's some tire wear, and the two ends of the track are different. He moved up well there. Passing can be tough at Texas, obviously, and same at Darlington. Moved up well at Vegas. Like, I'm with you. Those are probably my two guys again. How about Derek Kraus out there leading laps last week?
God.
6 of them.
If I can be honest with you, as somebody that played him as an absolute punt in so many lineups,
You were very happy.
it was so refreshing to see that kid get 29 fastest laps on DraftKings. Like he somehow hit 6.4x value.
He put up 32 points. Man,
Like it was outstanding. Like I wasn't mad about it. And granted, like
nope.
in so many, I built way too many lineups where I could only fit one driver in, and it was Derek Kraus. And I'm just like, I don't know, maybe he finishes top 30. And he didn't, but he got 29 fastest laps because of the tire strategy. Led 6 laps, I don't care. The fastest laps were more valuable, and he got to 6x value as a 5K punt play.
Yeah, it's going to be
So,
great when I do the next
my hats
Kansas.
off to him.
When I do the next Kansas DFS scoring trends, and Derek Kraus is
And we're trying to
thrown
figure out what happened.
thrown off the averages for 36th place starting spot. Those are probably the guys. We'll see who else shows up. I don't know. Corey LaJoy's okay, but he's got to show me some stuff here. But yeah, I would say that would be about it in the driver pool because we pretty well covered those. Not
Is there
everybody.
anything else you wanted to talk about? I wasn't sure if you're going to have your betting piece out this weekend.
I'm trying to get that out tomorrow. We'll see how the lines adjust. If you're listening to this before the lines adjust, Eric Jones going off at 50-1 to win. I might consider that. The odds, though, if we want to talk about some betting lines, I don't like any of the favorites, man. Larson's going off at plus 400. Hamlin's at plus 475. Truex is plus 700.
I don't really know if I want to bet anybody that short at this track.
Correct. Byron's at plus 800.
I still don't want that.
How about Reddick at plus 900?
That I would probably take.
How about Seabell at plus 1200?
What's Gibbs at?
Ty Gibbs is at 30-1.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for that.
He's the same odds as Ryan Blaney.
What?
Blaney is going off at 30-1. Logano's 35-1.
Is this DK?
BetMGM.
I would take that. I would take
Gibbs.
Gibbs.
DK has Gibbs at 28-1 and Blaney at 25-1 and Logano at 20-1.
My biggest complaint about betting this track is
anything can happen with tires.
You can have the fastest guy. You can have a guy run up front for 155 laps like Kyle Busch did in his last race with JGR at this track, and then he had engine failure.
Correct.
A penalty, cut a tire, get into the wall. Anything will ruin your day at Darlington. So it's we say this all the time at super speedways, don't check your lineups until the very end. And that kind of applies to almost any NASCAR DFS contest from
generally
week basis. But I don't feel good at all at Darlington because this track is just brutal. It's even if you're in the lead, clean air, all that, it doesn't matter. This track is brutal. You can get in the wall. You can ruin your day. It almost reminds me of the time when Noah Gragson in the Xfinity Series was leading a race, I think, at Homestead with about less than 10 laps to go. And he was running the high line, but David Starr, a couple laps down, ran up the track in front of him, and Gragson got right in behind him and wrecked from the lead with a car that was multiple laps down.
Blaney did that at Bristol a few years ago.
Things like that happen at Darlington. And it makes me uncomfortable to bet outrights.
The Eric Jones line at 50-1 is at Caesars. If you're looking on DK, he's 30-1 compared to Gibbs at 28-1.
I think I would be fine betting both.
Gragson's 50-1.
I can't bet that. I'm not betting on a Ford for this race.
He is 50-1, and then the next closest is Suarez at 125-1.
Dang, really offering long shots.
Briscoe's 125 to 1. Hey, Stenhouse, you like him? He's 150 to 1.
Well, on that note,
welcome to Spire, Michael McDowell. You're 250 to 1 to win.
Matt, thank you so much for your time. We'll be on the lookout for all your content on Saturday for Sunday's Cup Series race. Best of luck to you this week, and best of luck to the FA Nation.
Best of luck, FA Nation.